Hello again and welcome back. My name's Annie and this is my creative detour. I hope you're all having a great week and thank you for tuning in again. A big hello to all of my regulars. Thank you for all your lovely comments and hello to my new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing and catching up on some of the videos that are on the channel. So welcome to you all. Today we're going on with Junky June and it's run by Margreth from Seven Plaza. So I'll link her details below in the description. And I'm doing something that is made out of packaging paper. So you can see here I've got some brown paper that I'm going to use. And I've also got this massive big piece of packaging paper that it was wrapped around some artwork. And I'm going to use that to make some enclosed envelope tags. So they're a little bit different in that the tag is inside and you open it up. Now you can have whatever closure you want. And I've made about 5 different examples and I've got a bit of a twist on some of them. So stick around till the end where I show you all the ones I've made, and I've mixed it up a little bit. But when they open up, you can see that they're an enclosed tag that you can layer in some scrap paper or whatever. I've got some scrapbook paper at the moment in this one, but the other ones I've got other things. I've got some junk paper in there, and then I've got some ledger in one of them. But you can see that it is a tag that is hidden inside the envelope and then it closes. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to make a template that you can use over and over and over again, and show you how to make it, and then at the end we'll decorate one together and have a look at my examples. So let's get set up and I'll show you how to make the template. Okay, so to start making our template, we're going to use a piece of scrap paper. Now it can be any kind of paper. It can be a piece of scrap paper, a piece of junk mail, you know, it doesn't really matter because we're actually not going to use this. This is just for us to get our shape. And it needs to measure 7 inches by 7 inches. So you'll have some scrap around for that. And then we're going to need a piece of cardstock that we actually make our template out of. So we'll use this after we've got our shape to create this. And you can see that it's a reasonable thickness cardstock. I think it's 300 GSM, so it's reasonably thick, and I want to keep this forever. So I'm going to create the shape on this, cut it out, trace around it, and create a template. Then I can mass make with this. I can trace around this over and over and over again, and you'll be able to use it for a long time. So let's start first with getting the shape. Now it's really easy. You just fold it in half, point to point, to get our center lines. Now try and be as accurate as you can at this stage because you're making something that's going to be mass producing, multiples. So you don't want it to be off. You want it to be pretty accurate. And all we're doing is we're just getting our centers, our points that we can align with. Okay, now I'm going to put lines on it just so that you can see it, but you don't need to put lines on it for yourself. This is purely so that you can see in the camera what I'm doing. Okay, so I've folded on those lines. The next thing I'm going to do is get another piece of scrap, and it's just scrap cardstock. It measures 3.5 inches by 4 inches, which is 8.9 centimeters by 10.2 centimeters. Now, I'm making this so that the end result of my tag is approximately 3.5 inches by 6.25 inches, something like that. But you can adjust this principle to make any size. That's the great thing about it. Now you can see that I have measured across both directions and put some little markers. So measure halfway on each side and put those markers, and this one's at 1 3/4 and this one's at 2 inches. And then what we're going to do is we're going to line those dots up on the piece of paper, and all you have to do now is hold it in place and fold it up. So not a lot of measuring so far, just folding. And we're going to fold our sides in, and then we're going to open it back up, holding it in position, making sure those markers are on the spot, and we'll do the other side. So nice and easy so far, just some folding. And open it up and put this to the side and use it for something else, or keep it with your template. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to do some folding. So now we've got it 4 inches going this way. So I'll show you, this is the 4-inch direction. And this is the 3.5-inch direction. So turn it so the 4-inch side is in front of you, and we're going to fold in the ends, or the top and the bottom. Okay, and that's because we want the height. Okay, so you can see here that it's taller this way. Then what we're going to do is we're going to fold up our side bits. Now let me just put some little marks on it so that you can see where my lines are. You don't need to do the lines, because I'm just doing it so you can see it. So I'm going to pinch it here and fold this up and align it with that line, and try and be fairly accurate. And then we're going to do the same on the other side and give it a burnish. Turn it over and do the other side. So just folding at the moment, and relatively simple. And then align this here. Okay. So now I will draw on a few lines so that you can see my folds. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut those off. So you can either use a knife or scissors, whatever. I'm just going to cut along those lines, try and be fairly accurate. And then we'll do the other side. So just cut along those lines. Okay, so now when you open it up, it's an unusual shape. Okay, so the last thing we need to do now is we need to cut out our corners. So we've got some little corners here like this. We're going to take those bits out. So cut those little bits out as well. So there we go. There we have our unusual shaped piece of paper that we're going to use to make our cardboard template. Okay, so now that we have our shape, so that's the shape of our envelope that will fold shut, we'll get a piece of cardstock. So this is where you get your thicker cardstock. So I think this one, like I said, is 300 GSM, and cut it to 7 inches by 7 inches. So let's do that. And now you can sit your piece of paper onto your 7 by 7 cardstock and line it up perfectly with the corners. And then what we'll do is just draw around that piece of paper, holding it firmly and tracing that shape, because our goal is that we have a really sturdy template that we can use over and over again. Okay, so now this piece of paper we don't need anymore. And you can see that we're going to cut all this away get rid of all of that, and then we'll have our template. So cut that out and you'll end up with one like this. And that one we can use now to trace around. So you cut your paper, and I've got some, like I said, I'm using brown paper packaging and some other packaging to do mine, but you can use any type of paper that you want to make your hidden tag envelopes. So you just need to cut it, like I said, 7 inches by 7 inches, which in metric, I should have told you those, which is 17.8 by 17.8 centimeters. And just place your template onto your 7-inch square. So really great for using up some of those 8 by 8 paper pads that you don't know what to do with. And trace around it and then cut it out. So, you know, use whatever paper you want for this. Okay, so then what we need to do with that is cut that out. So I'll be fairly accurate with this, cutting it out, because I want my envelope to close and be square, like to be aligned with things. And now we're going to cut out these little corners as well. And you can see that one leg is longer than the other. On the one that is shorter, I'm going to miter it just slightly, but I'm going to keep the long legs straight. And I'll show you why in a little bit. So mitering just slightly. Okay, so now we have our piece of paper that we're going to use for our envelope. Now you may want to line it both sides, and I'll show you, for example, the one that I'm going to do with you. I've got it ready. You can see that at this stage, there it is, I have put some serviette onto it. So I've Mod Podged on, or decoupaged on, some serviette onto it. Now you could do anything. You could decorate it, you could stamp it, you could stencil, you could do whatever. Like I said, you might want to make this out of some really sturdy scrapbook paper, or you might want to make it out of magazine paper. But for this project, I'm using packaging. So at this stage, now all we've got to do is score it. So let me show you where to score it. So what we want to do, you can see here, we want this to fold in nice and neat, and we're going to put it on our scoreboard. And some of you might have scoreboards that you can use, and line up those two corners and score it. And you can see that I've scored across there so that it folds down. And then we'll do the other end and the two sides. So there we go. So now I can fold and burnish those folds. And you can see that the one that I did the miter on, it folds and clears the top and bottom. Okay, so that's why I mitered this little edge here, just so that it clears it. And then with our folded bit, we have a top and a bottom. Now they're both the same at the moment, but to fold the bottom, I'm going to fold it up and align it with the two sides and just bend it down so that it just touches those. So that's going to be my bottom. So fold that, bend it back over. And then the top, I'll bring it down, and where it just hits these sides here, that's where I'm going to fold it. And try and keep it square. It might be a little bit off, but try and keep it square. And bend it over. And you'll see that one is slightly longer than the other. And that's because we're wanting the top to come over and go on top of the bottom one. And also we want to get a decent sort of shape at the top of our tag. So now we have a top and a bottom of our envelope, and we can start to decorate it however we want to decorate it. So let's do that now. We'll decorate the one that I'm going to do with you today. So as I said, you can do whatever kind of paper you want and decorate it however you want. This one here, I have put this napkin onto it that I got while I was away. And I looked at the pattern and thought, oh, that reminds me of some of those lovely fabrics that are in the old vintagey sort of trains. So I thought I would do a bit of a train theme today. Now I'm going to start by inking up all of this, and I have a few bits of ephemera out, and I have cut a tag that is, let me tell you the measurement. I've cut a tag just out of some brown craft cardstock, and I've cut it at 3 3/8, which is 8.6 wide, and it is 6 inches long, which is 15.2 centimeters. And once again, I've covered that with the serviette, but you can do whatever you like. And the other thing that I've done, you can see that it's got a fold in it. And I have put that, to get that score line, I have put that into my envelope and positioned it where I wanted it to go. And I just marked it with a little notch and then scored it so that it got the bend where I need it to bend, so that once it's in here, it will bend and sit perfectly in the envelope and not be too tight down the bottom. We don't want it to go too far down the bottom. So I'm going to do a little bit of stenciling to decorate this, and I'm not going to overthink it too much. I'm just going to whack a little bit of ink onto it, and I'm just using a little bit of vintage photo. There we go. Now I have the tag to go in here, so I'm just going to round the ends on that. And you can see I've already folded down my top and bottom, so I'm going to give that a really good burnish. And I have a hero here, and he is, you can see he's got a bit of a chain on him. He's probably got his fob watch tucked into his top pocket, and he's our master conductor that looks after all of the clocks and maintains all of the clocks on the railway. And the timetabling is really important to him. So I've got a few timetables. So let's glue our hero onto our tag. So I'm just going to put some timetables on it. Now I got this out of Collage Soup, and I think it was the botany one. And I'll just use a little bit of art glitter glue to stick that down. I hope you're all doing well and have had a good week, a productive week. I'm recording and then racing off to work for the day. And then when I get home, I'll be editing so that you can watch this video over the weekend. And on the side of this image, this was out of Collage Soup Botany as well, is a bit of a ledger or some sort of timetable-y thing, so we can pretend that it's whatever we want it to be. So I'm going to glue that on. Yes, I'm enjoying making things out of the junk. I really love being creative with recycled products or upcycled products. There we go. We need to come up with a name for this gentleman, don't we? I'm just going to give that a little bit of memory along the line that it needs to fold on while the glue is a little bit wet. And I have a clock, because obviously this gentleman is all about keeping the rail system accurate. There we go. There's our tag that we can write on the back. I also have a engine and thrashing machine with a train on it, and I think this was out of one of Margaret's mega packs. I think it might have been for March last year, maybe. So I've got that. So let's just round the corners on that. That's just going to go in there as well. So I'll just ink that up, and that will give us somewhere else to do a little bit of journaling. Maybe this might be his side hustle, or he might be part of it. Let's name him John. So that's going to go in here as well, and we're going to secure that into there once we've decorated this. So let's decorate our envelope now. I have a timetable here, and I think I got this off of Raw Pixel out of the public domain images. Now, some news. What news do I have? I think I mentioned that my grandson went to the cross country, and he went to the zones or the regionals, and he did really well, but I think he was a little bit disappointed, to be honest, with his outcome. But we all thought he did amazingly, because at his school he came first in the cross country for his age, and I think that was across 3 classes in his age bracket, which is a great accomplishment, really. But in his little pond that he's swimming in, in his little world, he does very well. He's quite fit and agile, and is able to, perform quite well, and he's quite clever. So he's used to doing well. When you go to the zone or the regionals, you're swimming in a pond now with people that are good performers in their little world. So we were thrilled that he experienced this, because he's used to doing well at all the things that he does. But when he then was exposed to all of the other children that do well in their little world, he thought, oh, I thought I would have done better than that. But we were saying to him, you did do very, very well, and you should be really proud of how you've done. But you need to remember that there's lots of people out there that are very clever at what they do. So he ran in the race. So what I'm going to put on here, you can see I've got a little bit of timetable. I'm going to put a clock on here for John's fob watch. And I've got some little clocks here from all around the world. This one's got Buenos Aires, Stockholm, Dresden, Berlin, Munich on it. I'm going to tuck that down here, and I'm going to make another little policy closure button to go on there. And then I've got some little bits of ephemera out of my stash with a time on it, 9:39, and we'll tie it closed. So let me just grab out my eyelet, and we'll get that bit organized. And I also need to make the little button. Now let's glue on this so that we know where we've got to position it. I'm going to put it on one of the clocks. I'll just glue that on and get our Stockholm clock in the center, and tuck this little piece of time down behind it. And I've got a tiny little brad that I'm going to use to put on there and put through our clock. And I'll just flatten that down really well. And then on the back, we'll be able to put something over that. Let's put those clocks over it. Yes, so I was saying that he did really well. He came 9th out of 50 or 60 kids, and he was a little bit disappointed with that. But we said to him, oh, that was fabulous. Like, you're running against all of the children from all around the whole region that are very good at what they do. And we actually were thrilled that he didn't win, because we think it's a really good lesson for him to understand that there's lots of people like him that like to win, but it's not always about the winning, it's about the participating. So that was a really good lesson of what was going on. We'll just take the starkness off of those a little bit. So there we go, we have a little policy closure on there now. Okay, it's time for us to put in our papers. So I'm just going to actually put a little bead of glue on the back of this one along the top and glue it in. There we go. And we'll put John in, line him up. Oh, he's looking good, isn't he? Okay, it's time for us to now put our timetable on. So let's glue that on because I want that to wrap around. And we'll just glue that down as well, our little tab, just to reinforce it, as I'm not cutting it off because I want it to actually give some strength to the moving of the tag inside the envelope. And now I can punch a hole in that. Let's do it from the other side so it's in the center. And we'll set it. Now you're not going to see this one from the front, so I'm actually going to set it back to front, and that's because we've got our clock going over it. Yes, that's looking nice, isn't it? And now we can put our clock on after we've tied a little bit of twine onto it. Let's do that. Let's put some twine on it. Now I've just tied that so that it has a little bit of a loop on it. So let's leave that on. I like that. And that'll go around our brad, and I'm just going to tie a knot now that I know how long I want that. A knot in the bottom of that. And we can pop our clock on. And I think I'll ink the back of that as well so that when you see it on the other side it doesn't look too ugly. Yes, so some lessons for my grandson. It's the school holidays coming up soon, and we will have them for some of the time. Now let's just make sure we don't have any glue overhanging, or just a tad. Let's get rid of that, which will be lovely. When I'm working, they'll go to some vacation care. We might tuck this up under our clock. I might be able to get that up under there. That would be good. Let's do that. That looks nice. These little bits are out of a packet from All and Create, and the clocks are as well. So, okay, I had a few little scraps sitting on my desk. I'm just going to glue them on to the back of the tag, just for interest, so that they're used off of my desk as well. And I'll clear the decks and I'll bring out all my other examples. Now I've got a twist on it. I've changed a couple of them up. So let me tidy up and I'll show you all of the ones that I've made, and we'll have a final look at our conductor here named John. Okay, so let's have a little look at John. We can see that we have a hidden tag inside a envelope. It's like a enclosed policy envelope, but it's open so that you can journal on some bits, and you could layer up quite a few scraps of paper into this. And he is a conductor, but he looks after all of the clocks through all the stations, and it closes up, and we have a policy closure on the outside. So this will look lovely in a journal. We'll pull my journal out in a moment once we decide which one we want to put in it. Then the only thing is I'd like to dirty up that clock a little bit. It's a little bit stark. So let's just knock that back a bit. Yes, that's better. And I love the pattern and I love the texture of the serviette once it's Mod Podged onto the junk packaging. So that's lovely. Now you can see here that I have some tags that are not folded closed and some that are folded closed. So this was the one that I showed you earlier This was actually the one that I made first, and I made this one purposely to go into my cruising journal. It's got a bit of a sailing fishy theme to it, and it's got a few bits of places to write and some journaling space here, and just a little bit of ephemera on it, and just some detailing that makes it look nautical, some numbers and some letters, and a little faux postage stamp down here in the corner. And you can see that it is on the brown paper, and it just has some stenciling on it, and I used a net stencil because of the fishing. This one here, I used that same net again, but I used that purple packaging paper that came off of the artwork, and it's quite rough, like it's recycled paper, so it's very poor quality actually. So it was a little bit more challenging to work with, but that's okay. And I've got a few little Velcro dots on the back of this flower. I'll let you see the front of that, and a little bit of tape and a number there, and it opens up. And then on the inside I used some book page out of a gardening book, and I actually decoupaged on this serviette here onto that purple paper. And so because it was going onto a dark paper, it's quite muted and pulled back, but I really like it, and it makes the tag pop a little bit more. This recedes into the background. And then I used a few digitals. All of the digitals that I've used, I'll put in the description below for you to go to their page on either Etsy or Ko-Fi, and you can deep dive into what they've got. But I've just done a little bit of stamping and stenciling and used some ephemera. And then I've just got a little invoice in there to journal on, so you can put in it whatever you like. And then this closes down and our flower holds it shut. Now with these ones, I decided that I didn't want to close the envelope, so I made the envelope all the same way. And you can see this one I used that purpley blue packaging again, and I Mod Podged on this serviette with the birds on it onto that dark paper. I decided that I wanted to leave it as a pocket. So you don't have to necessarily close it shut. You can make it as a very open pocket so that you see a lot of the information, because sometimes when we do pockets, most of the information is covered by this area. So I wanted to have a fairly open pocket so that you could see the information, and this slides up and down so that if I do want to close this over, I'll be able to use this as a closing mechanism, and that's just a belly band with some ephemera on it. So let me show you that one. You can see that this slides and the tag goes in and out. I've just done a little bit of stamping on it and got a little extra tag on the back. And I think that this paper here is from Graphic 45 and it's Birdwatcher. This one here, I just used quite a lot of bits and pieces out of a bird book that I have of birds in Australia, and I fussy cut out the birds and I just used some of the page, did some stamping, used some labels and a bit of washi, and you can see that this does fold down, so potentially the tag could be bent if I wanted it to be bent and closed down, but I want to use it as a pocket. You can see that I just put on a little bit of scrap fabric that was hanging around my desk that matched quite nicely. And then the last one is of a passion fruit vine, and I've just once again used the packaging as the base, done a little bit of stamping and a little bit of washi, found a page in a book that I liked the image, and I'm picking something that the image is up here in this area. For all of them, you can see that I'm wanting the focal point to be for your eye to go here. And then I just put on a few labels, a little bit of trim onto this one with a few buttons, because this actually says Drapers. So I stamped on some measuring tape as if this is like the pattern on the material of the drapes or the curtains. And then it's just got some book page in the background, and the back's not decorated because I'll glue that down, and some twine on the top. So there we go, there's our enclosed tag envelopes. I hope you really enjoyed that and enjoyed learning how to make the template that will be really useful for mass producing down the track. Let's pop one into a journal so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, let's put one into my nature's journal. We'll pop these over here for the moment and have a little look at what it looks like. If you haven't seen this journal, it is in the journals and notebooks playlist that's on my channel. Let's see, I think there's a nice bluey page. Ah, yes, this one. There we go. Oh, yes, that looks nice on there, doesn't it? Sometimes when you put pages into a journal, you think, what am I going to put on this? What to do with nature? And then as time goes on and you put things into it, sometimes you just find the perfect page and you think, wow, I wouldn't have thought that that one would have worked, but it does. I'm just going to pin it in for the moment because I've got to take photos for the thumbnails. So there we go. That looks cute in there, doesn't it? And it's a nice little pocket that is showing quite a bit of information, somewhere to journal. There we go. I hope you really enjoyed that. I think I'm calling them enclosed or hidden tag envelopes, something like that. But once I start writing up the description and the title and that, I'll think about it. But something like that. All right, that's all from me today. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful and found making the template helpful. Let me know in the comments below whether you liked making the template, because I don't do that very often, but sometimes it's nice to mix it up and do some different things. So thank you so much for watching today. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, that'd be wonderful if you could do that. And have a wonderful weekend making something fun and new, and I will see you all again next week with another project. We'll probably go on with some of the cruising journal and maybe making a few more projects out of junk. Thanks again, and bye for now.